There's also Juanita la Fabulosa. And Juanita la Fabulosa, first of all, she does a wonderful job of cleaning. But most importantly, I don't know if you've had those coworkers that are very difficult to work with, and you're just like, you just need some love in your life. She walks by, and she smells like Suavitel. And she softens their hearts. And they become much nicer and better people to work with. But my favorite character by far, and this character I developed at a longer meeting, so there's a little bit more character development here. This character is called SuperMex. And SuperMex was born in Guanaceví, Durango. Durango in the house? Anybody? All right. So one day a meteor hit Guanaceví. Everybody else was okay except for SuperMex. SuperMex somehow landed in Chicago. And along with this meteor striking, he developed these super magic powers. So one of those powers is the power to become invisible. And the second power, well, first of all, let me just explain that any championship that has been won in Chicago has been because of SuperMex. So, you know that game, Game 6, 1998, against Utah, Michael Jordan? He hit that game-winning shot. This is what SuperMex did. He turned invisible. He went into Michael Jordan's ear, and he was like, "Hechale ganas." And just like that, Michael Jordan made that shot. I mean, you can't possibly think that he made that shot on his own, right? I mean, that's just crazy. You have to be a superhero. I've been obsessing about superheroes for many reasons, and again, I think it's because of the climate that we're talking about today, right? That we're talking about looking for heroes. Isn't that a comforting thought? Isn't it a comforting thought to think that every unsurmountable, or every seemingly unsurmountable challenge, every challenge that you feel that you can't accomplish, that there is a hero, a superhero there, waiting in the wings to push you forward, waiting in the wings to get you through. I believe in superheroes. Now, I believe that we've seen some of these superheroes on stage today, and I believe that the superheroes are among us, that they're sitting in this audience, and many of them have not discovered their power. I sit and I obsess over this, I think, because I am obsessed with the idea of living in a world where we all discover that power, where we discover this power to tell our stories. And with that power comes this tremendous responsibility to uplift our communities. And so there are tricks of the trade that superheroes learn in order to find this power. Now, I don't know how you, what the secret sauce is, or how it is that you actually arrive at at your special power from one day to the next. But I will tell you a bit about my journey. Now, very early on in my career, I think I was at a conference and I was preparing for a presentation, and I must have looked a bit overwhelmed, a little bit how I look right now. And again, I was very young, and fortunately for me, I had one of my mentors come up to me and say, "Silvia, how are you doing? You look a little overwhelmed." I was like, "I'm fine." And I smiled. "I'm doing great." It's kind of like fake it till you make it. Like, I just smiled and I told her that I was doing fine. And I think that she must have not believed me because she was like, "Look, I'm gonna give you some advice." And here's what she told me. I'm gonna share this story that she shared with me. And she said that this was a story that was passed on to her by her father. She explained to me that in her family there was a story that was shared where in your heart you have a little triangle. It's kind of like a compass. And so whenever you are following your life's journey, whenever you're following your path, this little triangle, if you're following the right path, everything's fine, everything is cool. But when you're doing something that doesn't feel right, when you're doing something that just doesn't feel true to you, that little triangle begins to turn. And as you can imagine, that little triangle has edges, so it begins to give you that little like ping in your heart. Have you ever felt that? When you're, doing something and it just doesn't feel right? And she's like, Silvia, whenever you feel that little pang in your heart, listen to that. Change directions, go where you're supposed to go. Because if you don't listen to that, eventually what's going to happen is that little triangle turns into a circle, and you stop feeling. You stop feeling understanding what your sense of direction is. And so, I'm thankful to her. I'm thankful to her because, it's true. As you're going through your life, as you're going through your journey, as you're trying to figure things out, you do have an understanding of what feels good, of what feels right, of what is true to your person. And so, one of the confessions that, I also have to make, in addition to sharing with you that I've spent a lot of time drawing superheroes in my meetings, and I'm hoping that nobody from Chicago Public Media is streaming this right now, is that I've actually based these superheroes off of people that I know. So, the biggest confession that I have to make is that SuperMex is my father. So, I am Super Silvia, daughter of SuperMex. And, my father's story, he was born in Guanaceví, Durango. He did not land here by meteor. He was orphaned at a very young age, and so he was raised by family members, he had a first-grade education, and as a young man, he ended up on a freight train that landed him in Chicago. So as a young man, again, a stranger to this city, he taught himself how to speak English in bars. He taught himself how to read and write. And all he did along the way was echaba ganas. Now, as you can imagine, as an immigrant in this country that has a first-grade education, that isn't well-versed in perhaps telling me as a young person, as his daughter, Mija, this is what you have to do to get to college, I had to figure a lot of things out. But the one example that I always had was my father's work ethic. Siempre le estaba echando ganas. He was always putting forth his best effort. And he would always tell me, Mija, I don't know how to tell you how to get there, but I can tell you, échale ganas. Échale ganas a todo. And that was an admirable ethic that, or mantra that he carried through his life. It was especially admirable, again, this man with a first-grade education, raised the family, grew in his leadership, became a senior manager at Chiquita Banana. And he'd often call me, and he was in meetings with MBA types. And he would be like, Mija, I have to fill out performance review. What the hell do I need to do that for? And so I would explain to him, Papi, you need to do this because blah, blah, blah. Here I know, I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. And so he would just, thank me, but he was like, I don't understand why we have to go through all of this. You either know what you're doing or you don't know what you're doing. And so my dad had a very colorful way of speaking. And so, the one thing that, along the way in my journey, growing in management and eventually running a radio station after going through a youth media training program, the one thing that was never acceptable to me is not using as a crutch, using it as an excuse that I don't know how to do something. I'd look at my father getting up, and working and really just putting forth every ounce of energy into everything that he did, and that was my motivation. And it continues to be my motivation. My father passed away early this summer, and so being the superhero that he is, he's invisible, and he's been whispering all along, échale ganas. And that's the message that I want to share with you today. I want to remind you all to follow your heart. I want to remind you all to share these stories, as I hope that you found that story inspirational. Share this story with other folks as well, because ultimately, if you do follow your heart, if you put forth the effort, we can conquer and we can defeat these supervillains like the Donald Trumps. It is our collective power as a people, as a community, as superheroes. We are the superheroes that we've been waiting for. I agree with everybody that has been on the stage that now is the time. We shouldn't have to wait. And so again, one more time, I want, collectively for all of us, one, to feel our heart, to understand that, there is a journey, pero hay que echarle ganas. Thank you.